Many kids are concerned with the people around them, but some find themselves caring for others more frequently or standing up for those who don't stand up for themselves. These kids are likely to be interested in social issues, and there are plenty of avenues to get them involved. Social activism plays a vital role in bringing about social changes for the betterment of society.
In India, there are a number of social activists who are committed to bringing in social reforms and fighting for social justice and a change in society through awareness campaigns, social work, and other activities. Among these, one of the famous activists is Kailash Satyarthi, who has actively worked for the enforcement of children's rights and education. He also fought against child labor and advocated the universal right to education.
Kailash Satyarthi was born on January 11, 1954 in Vidisha district of Madhya Pradesh in India. After completing an electrical engineer degree, he worked as a teacher in the area. In 1980, he left teaching and founded the organization Bachpan Bachao Andolan, which has freed thousands of children from slave-like condition. He also been active in the wide range of other organizations working against child labor and for children's right to education. As a worldwide campaigner, he has been architect of the single largest civil society network, the most exploited children, the Global March Against Children Labor.
As a young child of 5 years, he was disturbed deeply when he saw a small boy working with his cobbler father, shining shoes at the school gate on the first day of school. He could not understand why some children were different from him. Kailash was surprised to see the difference between him and the cobbler's son. He was well dressed on the first day of his school, and on the other hand there was the son of the cobbler with a sunny face and no dreams in his eyes. This touched Kailash deeply, and he asked his teacher about it, but got scolded in return. Kailash's inquisitive nature was unsettled, and he asked the same question to his headmaster.
The headmaster explained to him that the cobbler was poor and unable to send his son to school. Kailash was still not convinced by the answer that he got. For the next week or 10 days, he kept staring at the boy every time he entered or left his school building. He then asked the cobbler, "Why do not you send your son to school like me?" The cobbler responds hostility and said that his father himself and these sons are cobbler and they are born to work. This answer left Kailash more confused as Kailash's parents told him that everybody is attain good education, get a good job and earn respect for oneself in society.
One day, Kailash saw cobbler beating his son who was crying inconsolable on being asked. The cobbler replied that he had given his son a plastic sheet to cover the shoes, which were kept for mating as it was raining and the boy had covered himself and all the shoes are drenched. Kailash was shocked. On one hand,
He handed over his favorite colorful umbrella to the boy. This incident moved to Kailash to the core.
Kailash always felt very strongly that all children are born equal and therefore have the right to lead a good life. Public schooling was not free when Kailash was around 11 years old. With the help of a few like-minded friends, Kailash started a football club to raise money for the children who were unable to attend school. In the years that followed, Kailash and his friends went ahead and put up snack stalls and feasts and fairs and were able to raise more money towards school fees of underprivileged children.
Kailash realized the poor children were not able to afford school books and were forced to drop out from school. So he, along with one of his friends, hired a punch card and standing on it, he started congratulating the students passing the examinations and were promoted to next school, which immediately caught people's attention around them. He made people realize about those needy children and made them donate their used books.
That they were able to collect over 2,000 books. While sorting the books, they realized that the books ranged from the school syllabus to post-graduation. Now they were confused as to what should be done with the books and how they should identify the needy. They approached the headmaster to their school and sought his help. The headmaster agreed to sort out the books. This lead to the concept of the book bag, a sustainable and republishable invite to provide school books to children who could afford them, subsequently merging in with public libraries in their towns.
Another issue that caught his attention was the behavior meted out to manual scavengers. As a tribute to Gandhiji, he decided to organize two community dinner cooked and served by Harijans in a clean environment, and the political leaders and people from upper class were invited. Kailash and his friends along with the Harijan community wait until dark, but no one turned. Kailash realized the hypocrisy of the so-called leaders who used to speak against the practice of untouchability, discrimination in public gatherings were double-faced. One of the ladies who had cooked the food walked up and encouraged him and said, "You are the bravest person that we have seen in our life. You are eating the food that we have prepared." They asserted that the very fact that Kailash took such a big initiative for the benefit of the deprived community was an achievement in itself. He did not want to be associated with such hypocrite people, so Kailash took a bold stand and decided to drop his family name and adopt Satyarthi, the seeker of truth, as his surname.
Kailash founded Bachpan Bachao Andolan, Save Childhood Movement in 1980 as the first people's movement for social justice, equality, education and peace for all children in India. He braved all odds to uphold the rights of marginalized and victimized children, not only in India but across the world. In last 35 years, his efforts have resulted in the rescue of over 83,000 children and adults from child labor, trafficking and other exploitative situations in India. His interventions have transformed the lives of thousands of children working in carpet weaving, bangle making, the firecracker industry, the circus industry, lock making, brassware products, agriculture labor, sari embroidery, stone quarries and brick kilns, besides domestic child servitude across the world.
In the early 80s, he used to publish a fortnightly Sanghर्ष जारी रहेगा, the struggle shall continue, that the primarily focused on the work done by motivated people for the larger good of the society.
particularly in the defending the human rights. He has also authored several articles of booklets on issues of social concern and human rights. Kailash set up 3 rehabilitation and educational centers for pre-bonded child laborers that resulted in the transformation of victims of child servitude into the leaders and liberators.
In the 1980s, the carpets and rug manufacture sector in South Asia was infamous for using child labor under the pretext that children's navel fingers were based for knotting the carpets. Kailash initiated action against child labor by conducting regular rescue operations to release traffic-bounded child laborers in the carpet industry. He found a social voluntary labeling process, Ragma, now known as Mudvi, to monitor and certify that the carpets produced under the label did not use child labor in any part of the supply chain. Ragma was the first example of a carpet social responsibility. Kailash has always been of the firm view that child labor is an issue that affects the developed world much as it does the developing world. Kailash felt that there was a dire need for an international law or policy against the worst form of child labor. In 1996, he put forward to the world a proposal for such law. The very same year, he eventually conceptualized Global March Against the Child Labor, organized in 1998 across 103 countries with 72 million participants.
This was one of the biggest mass mobilization campaigns in history. The participation of children in the march was unprecedented, and they were the real icons of this movement. On June 2nd, 1998, for the first time in the history of the International Labour Organization, ILO, Satyarthi demanded a special convention on the worst forms of child labour. This ultimately resulted in a law adopted by the ILO in 1999.
Kailash was extremely concerned about the disconnect in the way the twin problems of child labor and out-of-school children were being handled. To tackle these problems in a cohesive manner apart from building the global march against child labor, he conceived, shaped, launched and led one of the biggest civil society initiatives, called the Global Campaign for Education, GCE, in 1999.
Linking the issue of child labor with education and driving the international NGOs, teachers, unions and civil society organizations under one banner. These two worldwide coalitions, the Global March Against Child Labor and the Global Campaign for Education, becomes the reference point for the discovery of child labor and the associated education disadvantages.
Kailash has always believed that inclusive growth cannot be achieved until all stakeholders agree on a common minimum agenda. He has been active in pursuing and motivating parliamentarians, businessmen, religious groups, social leaders and ordinary people around the world to uphold the rights of the child.
To involve all stakeholders in building about the meaningful difference in the fight against child labor, involving the general public, increasing awareness and sensitization and placing the subject of child rights on national agendas. Kailash initiated many yatras or physical march. One of the most significant marches was Shisha Yatra, the education march in
Kailash Satyarthi has received the Parliamentarians for Global Action, Defender of Democracy Award, the Robert F. Kennedy Human Rights Award, the Medal of the Italian Senate, and the Friedrich Ebert Stiftung Human Rights Award, Germany, among many other accolades. This award we have confirmed on Satyarthi for this immense contribution in advancing human rights. His word and life has been featured in national and international media.
Owing to his desire to help children in need of care and protection, Kailash places the global spotlight on the children's rights issues to magnify the impact for the larger good of children across the globe. Along with Queen Rania of Jordan, FIFA President Sepp Blatter and others, he has headed the One Goal campaign. This campaign successfully mobilized millions of people during the Football World Cup in 2010 in favor of education rights for all children.
In 2014, Kailash Satyarthi was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize jointly with Malaya Yousafzai for their struggle against the suppression of children and young people and for the right of all children to educate. Kailash has dedicated the entire prize sum to the advancement of the rights of children. On January 7, 2015, he handed over his Nobel Medal to the President of India, dedicating it to his motherland and its great people. The medal is now permanently displayed at the President's House Museum in New Delhi.
Kailash aims to address the existing policy gaps, owing to the compartmentalized approach of various stakeholders, work towards strengthening the capacity of grassroots civil society initiatives and forge partnerships and alliances for various aspects of child protection. Kailash says, "I am sure that together all of us will usher in a child-friendly world within our lifetime."
At Claremont, we'll learn, excel, and shine.